Wow. So I think there's maybe a misconception. Honestly, I think a lot of people don't really understand how no one really wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, today's the day. I've never tried it. I'm going to go out on the street and try to buy heroin. So you're saying it really starts over a process, and it may start with something like an injury, a surgery, a legitimate medical event where somebody is prescribed something that's designed to help them recover from that medical event. But then unfortunately, something bad happens along the way. When people start to go into, I guess, a slide where they start to abuse those pills, if your goal is to try to prevent it, is there a time or a way that someone should reach out to you, that you would ideally become engaged in that process? Should there be some prevention on the front end when those things are first prescribed? What is the ideal way to sort of handle that so that you prevent that person from sliding down into the first place?
So our big prevention strategies, once again, are education. And we first start with our youth, because eventually in your younger years, you start to develop those habits. So those habits might be taking these pills from a family's medicine cabinet, taking it from a friend who you trust. We start talking to them at the young age. You do not take pills that are not prescribed to you. You take it as followed. If the doctor does prescribe it for maybe a sports injury, wisdom teeth removal, follow the instructions, and that prevents the misuse. But other prevention strategies that we try to do a lot in the community is educating our prescribers, letting them know out there, here's the resources we have in the community at Keystone. We have MAT, Medication Assisted Treatment Services. We want to make sure that these individuals that are getting prescribed their medication aren't getting it prescribed for a long period of time. So since this opioid epidemic has wreaked havoc on the nation, a lot of our prescribers have gone from a 30-day supply of giving their patient, 30-day supply of prescription pills to generally just the 3 days coming off of their surgery or whatever procedure that they're having. And that allows the prescriber to be able to come back to the patient and say, how are you feeling? Where are you at right now with the pain? So that's one way to prevent overprescribing, and it's having those educational conversations. Other things that we do on the prevention standpoint in the community is really making sure that people get rid of unused or expired medication. You would be surprised the amount of people that we hear at Keystone that first got their hands on painkillers was just going to a friend's home. They're walking through someone's house, they go to the bathroom, and that medicine cabinet in there isn't locked. So they're getting access to anything from Xanax, Adderall, pain relievers. And this is one way that people get access to it. So from our prevention strategy, we want to get rid of unused or expired medication. So we're doing a lot of distribution in the community with at-home disposal bags, and that's something that our prevention office can provide free to anyone in the community. And then we're also encouraging for those that have, baggies filled of those, those pills that they've filled up over the years and never used. Maybe they expired out. We actually have 7 permanent drop box locations here in York County. All 7 of these are located at police departments, including Winthrop University Police Department. So we're always encouraging people, get rid of these pills because that eliminates the access. Mm-hmm. And like I said, over time when an individual that was first prescribed a prescription pill for a legitimate purpose, when they get cut off from that source, they're going to look for that next readily available source. So get it out of the household, and that prevents the addiction from carrying on there. Other just basic prevention messaging is joining together with communities, with businesses, getting people trained on how to recognize the signs for misuse, abuse, stuff that we can practice on our own or help other people in the community. Once you know how to help somebody, just like basic CPR, more people are likely to administer Narcan, which is a overdose reversal antidote. It's a chemical that is a nasal spray. More people are likely to administer Narcan than they are CPR. So I feel like having the education and these resources within your business, your practice, your organization can help save lives in the long run.
So let's talk about Narcan a little bit. You mentioned the fatal and the non-fatal overdoses that you see. Is it Narcan oftentimes that's the difference between an overdose being fatal or non-fatal?
It's not the Narcan. That Narcan will not make a difference if you are experiencing maybe a overdose from meth, from another substance. It's still going to impact only the opioid receptors. So Narcan's not the deciding factor between fatal or non-fatal. It depends on how quick somebody's able to administer Narcan. That's why we want everybody in this community to have it on hand, in their pocket, in their car, in their home, because it takes a little while for EMS to get there, depending on where they're being called from. So that's really the deciding factor between fatal or non-fatal. Was EMS able to get there in time? Was this individual responsive when somebody arrived to the scene? And were they able to get that Narcan to them as quick as possible to reverse the overdose? But the ones that are fatal, it all comes down to that time. They just weren't able to administer Narcan in time, and at that point, they were declared deceased.
So